All right. Good evening, friends. Welcome to another series of Ab India Karega Invest. For all the members who are joining with us for the first time, this is a weekly series which we do. We take one topic, we invite one industry expert, and we take the current topic so that we can help you in your investing in a much better way. So before the lockdown, we were doing this physically. We were traveling to different part of the countries, but post lockdown, we have decided that through the use of technology, we don't want to let this opportunity go. So every week we are doing this. So today's topic also is quite interesting. Markets at all time high, what investors should do. And my name is Rishabh Lunia. I am from Novice, training partner with Groww. Uh, Along with us, we have Mr. Rupesh Patel, Senior Fund Manager Equities from Tata Mutual Fund, and Shikhar Singh from Groww. So the flow of the session will go. I'll just give a brief, probably a foundation on the topic, and then we'll hand it over to Mr. Rupesh, who will give his industry insight on the topic, and then followed by Shikhar coming and talking on the Groww platform. So let me quickly start my screen sharing. All right. Yes. So as I said, another interesting topic: markets at all-time high. So let's understand what's happening in the market, why markets are touching all-time high, and then we'll come to what, as investor, you should do in your portfolio to make sure that you are inching towards your long-term wealth creation. So a roller coaster, I think we can aptly say that to markets in 2020. 7, 8 months back, barely, we were talking about how to protect our capital, how to safeguard our investments. And today, we are again talking on the same thing, but at a markets at totally different perspective. So what has changed? So I think one thing clearly which is directing the market is the success which we are getting, which we have seen in last couple of months on the vaccine front, is definitely keeping the markets very, very interesting. Yesterday also we saw that some of the vaccine developers getting emergency usage nod, so that is keeping markets interested. Just to give some numbers, how much India has blocked, how much EU, US, Canada, all the emerging and the developed nations. Now, just to give you a perspective, when markets value stocks, or when markets look at valuation, they look going forward. So many a times you might see that things are not moving that great in the current market, but stock market is going high, because stock market is always futuristic. They always look forward. So when I say forward, it is 18 months, 12, 24 months in advance, and that outlook looks promising from here. So what's going right for us? If you see quickly, the economy after the 24% Q2 fall, we have seen slight improvement there, and Moody's is projecting that 21-22 India will bounce back with a healthy GDP growth rate of approximately 10.8%. So quickly, let's see what are the other positives for us, so that we can understand that why markets is behaving like this. IIP is one front where we have seen a V-shaped recovery. GST collections have been robust, back to back 2 months where we have collected 1 lakh kind of figures. Employment also is showing some recovery, and copper prices are again becoming very stiff, which is a positive sign for industry. Normally, copper prices moving up is a strong sign for industrial recovery. Now, what else is influencing markets? So as you have seen, US have been in pumping in a lot of liquidity in its markets, and that is flowing across the globe. Even emerging markets like ours is also getting its due show. Last 4 or 5 months have been very good months from FII inflows. So liquidity is certainly one factor which is driving the market currently. And what are the challenges? So all these are positive, but also we need to take into account what are the current challenges. The first is some of the developed markets are again talking about second wave. So that is a concern. If that happens, how the markets will behave. So that is something which can make markets jittery. The second is the recovery of employment has flattened a little bit. So again, next couple of months data will be very interesting to see how employment picks up. And then close to 50% of households in India have suffered a fall in their income. So last 6-7 months, a lot of the income levels have seen a dip, which is again may put little challenges on their savings. And just picked one data from US market where it is clearly seen that the companies which are very light on debt, companies which have lower levels of debt, they have seen they have performed decently in last 8-9 months compared to companies which are high on debt on their balance sheet. And another thing is capital light companies. So whether you talk about IT or services, those kind of companies tend to do well during periods like this. And we are seeing some challenges on capital intensive companies. So going forward, we need to keep our eye on whether the investment is picking up in the capital intensive or not. So as I said, capital formation is slowing down. That is a big challenge for a market, because for us to see a great level of sustainable level of expansion, capital formation is important in the economy. And talking about banks collection, there are a couple of challenges where the bounce rate has gone higher, both in terms of volume and value. And S&P believes that the bank's collection efficiency may not sustain at the current level. So these are some of the challenges which we are point. So what do we look forward going forward? Liquidity certainly will drive. So that is for next, I think, immediate future is something which will drive the market. Now, COVID impact, is it the noise along the way, or it is slightly more than that? I think if we do not encounter the second wave, then certainly we are better off. But if we get into the second wave, then markets will have to again value itself accordingly. And young companies, low debt companies, companies with higher cash are companies which you should look if you're looking for direct equity investment. Now, coming to your portfolio, when you're looking to build a portfolio, how can you make sure that your portfolio generates long-term better returns? There are three broader strategies generally we talk about. One is asset allocation. जब हम बात करते हैं asset allocation की कि हमको कहाँ निवेश करना चाहिए, क्या वो इक्विटी है, डेट है, गोल्ड है. So always need to have this asset allocation strategy for your long term goals. Second है कि कौन सा फंड सिलेक्ट करें. ओके, कंसिस्टेंसी को इंपॉर्टेंस दीजिए. पास्ट परफॉर्मेंस अगर आप देखते हैं उसमें कौन से फंड्स ने कंसिस्टेंटली अल्फा जनरेट किया है, वो आपका होराइजन होना चाहिए. एक्सपेंस रेशियो जो हमने पहले भी बात की है कि आपको फंड्स के एक्सपेंस रेशियो को भी देखना चाहिए. सो ये एसेट एलोकेशन और फंड सिलेक्शन पे हमने काफी पुराने सीरीज पे बातें की है. एंड जो थर्ड थिंग जिस पे हम आज बात करना चाहेंगे कि क्या मार्केट टाइमिंग इंपॉर्टेंट है पोर्टफोलियो जनरेट करने के लिए, और अगर है तो क्या हम एज इंडिविजुअल कैन वी डू टाइम द मार्केट, येस और नो. सो वी विल स्पेंड सम टाइम ऑन दिस. एंड so a lot of people ask this question, can I really time the market? So I'll just show you one historical perspective to build my case, and then we will give the answer for this question. So if you look at the last global financial crisis, the 2008 का जो हमने fall देखा था, उस समय अगर किसी ने निवेश किया था 1 लाख रुपए मार्केट में, so January 2008, if somebody had invested 1 lakh and जब मार्केट ऑल टाइम हाई पे था, तो अक्टूबर 2020 जो 10 साल से लगभग 10 to 12 इयर्स का जो पीरियड है, वहां पे वो अमाउंट 2,55,000 का हो जाता है. बट वही पैसा अगर किसी ने दिसंबर 2008 में इन्वेस्ट किया, जब मार्केट्स ऑल टाइम लो पे था, बॉटम पे था, तो वही अमाउंट 1 लाख रुपए अगर वहां पे उन्होंने इन्वेस्ट किया तो वो अमाउंट बढ़ के 5,75,000 अक्टूबर 2020 में बन जाता है. सो एक पीरियड हमने लिया है जो है मार्केट हाई टू करंट, एंड अनदर इज आफ्टर मार्केट हैज फॉलन टिल डेट क्या रिजल्ट हुआ. नाउ अगर दूसरे साइड अगर आप हम देखते हैं कि मार्केट पीक पे अगर किसी ने एसआईपी किया है तो उनका रिटर्न्स क्या है, और अगर लास्ट 6 मंथ्स का जो परफॉर्मेंस है विच इज 29% एब्सोल्यूट ग्रोथ रेट. सो अब जो ब्रॉडर क्वेश्चन है कि क्या मैं टाइम करने से, क्या मैं मार्केट लो में इन्वेस्ट करके ये अच्छा रिटर्न बना सकता हूं. सो इट इज वेरी इजी फॉर मी टू सी लास्ट 10 years 12 years एंड टेल कि हाँ मार्केट 2000 जनवरी दिसंबर 2008 में मार्केट्स ने लो टच किया, और अगर मैं वहां इन्वेस्ट करता तो मार्केट में मैं अच्छा पैसा बना सकता. But normal investor or anybody for that matter, no, while we are going along the market, we don't know whether we are at an all-time high or markets are low. Only in future we'll get to know. So what can be our strategy during this time? So what we did was from December 2008 to January 2008 to December 2008, if somebody has done a systematic transfer plan, STP, instead of investing 1 lakh in January, if they have broken down, अगर उन्होंने उसी पैसे को 10-10 हजार रुपए करके 10 महीनों में इन्वेस्ट किया होता तो उनका परफॉर्मेंस अगर आपको बात करूं तो वही 1 लाख रुपए आज अक्टूबर में 4.5 lakhs में कन्वर्ट होते. तो कहने का मतलब है हमने क्या किया, हमने इंस्टेड ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग 1 lakh हमने उसको छोटे छोटे हिस्सों में ब्रेक किया, and then we are investing into the market. So I may not have got 5.5 lakhs, which was the best scenario, but I am much better off than investing at an all-time high. So a lot of people who want to invest lump sum at this point in time, उनका क्वेश्चन यही रहता है, is it safe to invest the big money at this point in time? So people who are doing SIP, they know that SIP is all-time product which you can keep on. बट पीपल हु आर इन्वेस्टिंग, जो लार्ज सम इन्वेस्ट करना चाहते हैं, उनके लिए एडवाइस यही है कि आप उसको ब्रेक डाउन कीजिए. यू पुट दैट इनटू अ लेस रिस्की प्रोडक्ट लाइक अ डेट फंड और अ लिक्विड काइंड ऑफ प्रोडक्ट, एंड वहां से आप ओवर अ स्टैगर्ड पीरियड यू एंटर इनटू द मार्केट. सो एडवांटेज है यू आर नॉट मिसिंग आउट इफ मार्केट मूव्स फॉरवर्ड फ्रॉम हियर. एंड सेकेंड, द ओवरऑल रिस्क जो आपका है, इंस्टेड ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग अ लार्ज सम, you are minimizing your risk. So this is one strategy which we want to give to investors who are planning to look at lump sum investment, and people who want to invest on a monthly basis. It goes without saying, SIP, we have seen in last few series also that systematic investment plan gives you the average cost price along the way, and in longer term it generates good returns with you. So with this I would like to hand over to Mr. Rupesh Patel so that we can understand from his how fund managers see current market levels and what is the advice for our investors. So over to you, Mr. Rupesh.
Thank you, Rishabh, and thank you so much to Groww for giving me this opportunity. Rishabh has actually already covered a lot of stuff which I wanted to cover, but nonetheless, in my own way, I'll try to reinforce some of my learnings from what Rishabh shared with us. And I'll try to touch upon what markets are today factoring in, and going ahead, what to expect from the market. Before I really start to make an attempt or to make a guess where markets are headed to or what will happen to markets, I would like to share with you one of the biggest learning which I have had in my career, in my investing career. And that learning is that it's next to impossible to time the market. Now let's go back in time. Rishabh talked about 2008. Let's look at what happened in 2020. I remember March 23rd is when markets had hit a low, and in no time we had corrected almost by 40% or so. And at that time, whenever I used to address a seminar like this or used to have interactions with our distribution partners or investors, the question used to be that how low will markets go from here? And people used to talk about a lot of predictions on stocks, on markets, that how low it will go and how this is not the bottom and how things are going to go worse from where we are. And from that stage, today we have reached a situation wherein in all such interactions, in my distributor interactions, in my investor interactions, the questions which are asked are, what next in terms of sectors? अभी अगला कौन सा सेक्टर चलेगा? लोग पूछते हैं अभी मिड कैप स्मॉल कैप में डालें या लार्ज कैप में ज्यादा रिटर्न बनेगा. So I mean, this is how markets change. This is how market moods change from extreme bearishness to extreme bullishness. So I mean, this is one of my biggest learning which I have had in my career. And my advice to you would be that if you want to make money in the market, then do not try to time the market. Nobody really knows, nobody can really predict that what will happen tomorrow, which will take the markets up or take the markets down. Markets will do what it has to do, and we may continue to argue on most of occasions. Only in hindsight we will be able to explain that why markets did a particular thing, why it went up or why it went down. So if you want to make money in the market, the most important thing is control your greed and control your fear. I mean, many legendary investors have put it in different ways, that the best time to invest in the market is when there is fear all along. And the time to be cautious is when everyone wants to, or everyone starts thinking that making money in this market is very, very easy. And maybe I can quit my full-time job and adopt stock market investing as a full-time career. That is the time probably to take a step back and evaluate the risks which are there in the market. So having said that, I mean, having shared this learning with you, I will embark upon the tough job of projecting or trying to tell you where markets are headed to. Well, very clearly, I mean, when March bottom happened on 23rd of March, there were fears around pandemic. Nobody really knew how far this pandemic will go, how will we come out of it, and the damage to economy was still being assessed. So no doubt, I mean, it was a very, very natural reaction of the market to be so bearish. Going ahead, once we started seeing the opening up in the economy, particularly Q2 onwards, the pace of economic recovery really surprised the markets. And earnings, there were not a huge expectation from earnings reported by companies in Q2, but most of the companies surprised on the volume growth. Most of the companies surprised on their operating profit margins, which they reported. So surprise on earnings growth, particularly on the volume side, told market that things were not as bad as we were expecting. And the recovery phase is going to be much sharper than what markets were assuming. And that led to a lot of interest coming back into stocks. And we saw that stocks really started reacting to those earnings numbers reported, even though there were degrowth in terms of YOY. But market expectations were no different on those estimates. But the biggest surprise came from the operating profit margin part. In Q1 results, most of the companies had indicated that they have tried to bring their costs down. Wherever they can reduce their costs, they are doing it. Wherever they can variabilize their costs, they are doing that. And some of the cost cutting which has happened, some of the costs which have been taken away out of the system would be permanent in nature. When Q2 numbers came, markets had certain expectations on the kind of cost cuts which can happen or cost cuts which will come back. But there were very clearly a surprise from the managements in terms of the extent of cost cuts which are going to be there permanently. My sense is as we move ahead, as businesses scale up, a significant part of these costs will come back. But this pandemic has given a chance to corporates to reorganize their cost structures, to reorganize their business. And as a result, we will see that some of the costs, at least a little bit of the cost savings which we have seen today, will be there permanently for sitting there for the companies. And as a result, we saw that earnings estimates which were there after the Q1 results got upgraded, and markets rewarded those upgrades in earnings. Having said that, where we stand today. Today, if we look at valuations, whether as compared to our own historical averages, or we compare ourselves to other emerging markets, or we compare ourselves to global valuations, then we are certainly not cheap. Valuations are at the higher end of our longer term averages. Now, when you invest at such valuations, yes, there are risks. But remember that only in hindsight we'll get to know whether our earnings multiple were 20 times or 18 times. So from here on, to make a case of PE multiples getting re-rated is a bit difficult. No doubt we are in an environment where liquidity is in abundance, interest rates are so low, so PE ratios are bound to go up. But from here on, will investors make money because of PE multiples getting re-rated? I will not bet on that. I think from here on, to make money, earnings growth has to surprise. Earnings estimates have to go up. So earnings estimates will go up and you will have roll forward. So markets will start looking at FY23 earnings, and that's when you will make some kind of returns. So with this background, what should investors really do? I think Rishabh very rightly pointed out that probably the right way to invest in a market like this is follow a systematic approach. And it over a longer period of time, it is your asset allocation which creates wealth for you. So stick to your asset allocation plan. Don't just assume that markets have run up 70, 75%, 75, 76% from the bottom, and hence are at all-time high, and hence are so expensive that I should take my money out from the equity markets. My recommendation would be remain invested. If the economic recovery and earnings growth surprises, there is still money to be made in the market. Remember that we are in an environment of high liquidity and low interest rates. Should you allocate large lump sums in the market at current level? My advice would be no, spread it out over a period of time. So continue with your systematic investment plans or systematic transfer plans, and continuing with that would be a rewarding experience going ahead. In terms of sectors, we have seen sector rotation happening in the market. We saw that when the recovery started, initially pharma and IT sectors did very well. And then we had a phase wherein FMCG did very well. And in last 1 month or so, we have seen that banks have started doing very well, and industrials have also recovered. So I think this rotation trade will continue. Wherever markets will see that the probability of disruption is lower, the probability of recovering faster is there, and the probability of earnings surprise is there, those sectors will start doing well. A lot of times investors ask that should they invest in sectoral funds, because the way markets are moving, I mean, if you get the sector right, you may make a lot of money in a very short span of time. My advice would be that yes, I mean, in terms of sectoral funds, if you get the sector call right, on both sides, where that is to get into the sector and at the same time to get out of the sector, you can make a lot of money. You can make more money than what a broader market will do. But it's not always easy to get the sector call right. You may get the entry right, but you may not be able to get the exit right. So sectoral funds or taking such sectoral calls is something which is best left to the fund manager. You can invest in sectoral funds, but always keep in mind your risk appetite and don't get swayed by the historical returns generated by a particular sector. This is another thing which we have seen in our experiences, that typically investors, they tend to chase returns. So जिस फंड में, जिस सेक्टर में जब सबसे ज्यादा रिटर्न्स दिखता है, उसी फंड में और उसी सेक्टर में इन्वेस्टर्स फंड इन्वेस्ट करने की कोशिश करते हैं. That may not be a very great idea in terms of generating returns. So in conclusion, I would say, yes, markets have done very well from the bottom, which we saw in last week of March. Going ahead, a lot of recovery is already priced into the market. But will that itself be reason for markets to correct? Definitely no. So stick to your asset allocation plan instead of looking at investing in large lump sums in one shot. Spread it over a period of time. That would be a right way to go. I think with this, I would conclude, and over to Shikhar. Would be happy to take your questions at a later stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Rupesh. Welcome back to Ab India Karega Invest. I will very quickly walk you through why Groww was started, number one, and all the things that you can do on Groww. जो features हैं हमारे पास, जो product के updates आ रहे हैं, उसके बारे में आपको बताऊंगा. And इसके बाद we will take your questions. So आपको म्यूचुअल फंड्स के बारे में, इन्वेस्टमेंट्स के बारे में या ग्रो के बारे में कोई भी क्वेश्चंस हो तो उसको आप डालते रहिए. काफी लोग डाल चुके हैं ऑलरेडी. चैट में डाल दीजिए एंड वील ट्राई एंड आंसर ऑल ऑफ योर क्वेश्चंस. सो या टू गेट स्टार्टेड, देखिए ग्रो को जो स्टार्ट किया गया था, बहुत सारे रीजंस है, बट वन ऑफ द मेन रीजन वाज दैट इंडिया में जो इन्वेस्टर्स हैं उनको सारे ऑप्शंस देने के लिए, तो एक सर्टेन ईज मिसिंग था इंडिया में. चाहे आप अगर आप म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहते हैं या स्टॉक्स में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहते हैं, तो एक लेवल का डिफिकल्टी आता था आपको वो स्टार्ट करने में. एंड अगर एक तरह से देखा जाए तो आप किसी भी तरह के इन्वेस्टमेंट में पैसा अगर लगाना चाहें तो उसमें एक थोड़ी सी एक हर्डल सा रहता है रास्ते में, चाहे वो एफडी हो, चाहे वो गोल्ड हो या स्टॉक्स हो या म्यूचुअल फंड्स हो. तो ये सिंप्लीफाई करने के लिए, ताकि लोगों को इसके अलग अलग इन्वेस्टमेंट्स के बारे में अवेयरनेस बढ़े, इसको एनेबल करने के लिए ग्रो को स्टार्ट किया गया था. I will very quickly share my screen so that I can walk you through the Groww product. Yeah. So Groww पे साइन अप करना 100% पेपरलेस होता है. आप आराम से अपने लैपटॉप या स्मार्टफोन के थ्रू साइन अप कर सकते हैं. एंड अगर आपकी केवाईसी नहीं हुई है तो वो भी हम आपके लिए फ्री में करवा देते हैं. सो जब आप खोलेंगे, सबसे पहला पेज जो आपको दिखेगा वो है ये वाला, म्यूचुअल फंड. सो दिस इज व्हाट वी कॉल द एक्सप्लोर स्क्रीन. इन द एक्सप्लोर स्क्रीन यू हैव three options. You have stocks, you have mutual funds, and you have gold. So जो ऊपर सर्च बार है, यहाँ पे आप किसी भी म्यूचुअल फंड या स्टॉक का नाम टाइप कर सकते हैं और आप उसके पेज पे जा सकते हैं. जो एक्सप्लोर स्क्रीन है, whether it's for stocks, mutual funds or gold, it depends. It is individually made for each. तो जैसे म्यूचुअल फंड्स में आपको दिख रहा होगा पॉपुलर फंड्स हैं, उसके नीचे कलेक्शंस हैं, और नीचे स्क्रॉल करेंगे तो ऐसी और भी आपको ऑप्शंस दिखेंगी. इसी तरह अगर आप स्टॉक्स वाले पेज पे जाएंगे तो आपको सबसे पहले निफ्टी और सेंसेक्स दिखेगा, उसके नीचे टॉप गेनर्स, फिर टॉप लूजर्स, और भी नीचे जाएंगे तो ऐसी बहुत सारी डिटेल्स मिलती रहेंगी. एंड अगर आप गोल्ड पे जाएंगे तो आपको अभी फिलहाल हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म पे ऑगमोंट गोल्ड का ऑप्शन है, और जैसे जैसे हमारे प्लेटफॉर्म पे फ्यूचर में और भी ऑप्शंस ऐड करेंगे डिजिटल गोल्ड के, तो आपको वो भी यहाँ पे दिख जाएंगे. इसी तरह जब भी आप किसी म्यूचुअल फंड के नाम पे या स्टॉक के नाम पे टैप करते हैं, सिलेक्ट करते हैं, तो कुछ इस तरह का पेज खुलता है. दिस इज अ पेज फॉर अ म्यूचुअल फंड. इन दिस एवरी सिंगल डिटेल ऑफ अ म्यूचुअल फंड इज मेंशन. ऐसा कोई भी चीज नहीं है जो आपको एज एन इन्वेस्टर पता होना चाहिए और वो आपको यहाँ ना मिले. सब कुछ मिल जाता है, चाहे वो रिटर्न्स हो, एक्सपेंस रेशियो हो, इस म्यूचुअल फंड की कंपैरिजन हो इसी के कैटेगरी के दूसरे म्यूचुअल फंड से. वो सारी डिटेल्स आपको इस म्यूचुअल फंड पेज में मिल जाती है. जब भी आप किसी म्यूचुअल फंड के नाम पे टैप करेंगे तो आपको ऐसे ही पेज पे लाया जाएगा. इसी तरह स्टॉक्स का भी एक पेज है. जब भी आप किसी स्टॉक्स पे टैप करेंगे तो आपको इस तरह के पेज पे लाया जाएगा. एवरीथिंग अगेन, all the details pertaining to this particular stock will be visible to you, be it P ratio, revenue, reports, etc. And likewise, right now we have Augmont Gold, so you can also come to the Augmont Gold page. And in the future, when we add other options, जब हम दूसरे gold के options लाएंगे, तब आप उनके पेज पे भी जा सकते हैं. ग्रो पे म्यूचुअल फंड में इन्वेस्ट करना आपके पास करने का दो ऑप्शन होता है. बहुत लोगों को लगता है कि सिर्फ SIP ही एक ऑप्शन है जिसमें मंथली पेमेंट करना पड़ता है आपको। ये जरूरी नहीं है, आप वन टाइम पेमेंट भी कर सकते हैं, जरूरी नहीं है कि आप हर महीने उसको रेकरिंग ही रखें। ये डैशबोर्ड है। सो डैशबोर्ड इज वेयर योर इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आर। आपने जो जो पैसा लगाया है उसकी सारी डिटेल्स आपको आपके डैशबोर्ड पे मिलेंगी। तो इसमें भी वैसे ही ऊपर 3 टैब हैं, स्टॉक्स, म्यूचुअल फंड्स एंड गोल्ड। एंड जो आपको अभी स्क्रीन पे दिख रहा है वो म्यूचुअल फंड्स का है। यहाँ पे आपके सारे, ऊपर में तो समरी है और नीचे सारे म्यूचुअल फंड्स के नाम हैं। जब भी आप किसी, यहाँ पे अगर आप किसी म्यूचुअल फंड के नाम पे टैप करेंगे तो आपको एक और स्क्रीन पे ले जाया जाएगा जहाँ पे आपके और उस म्यूचुअल फंड के बीच जो ट्रांजैक्शंस हुई हैं उसकी सारी डिटेल्स रहेंगी। तो आपका फोलियो नंबर, एवरेज एनएवी, कितने बार खरीदा, कितने बार निकाला, वो सारी डिटेल्स कुछ पासबुक की तरह अगर सोचना है तो इट्स सिमिलर टू अ पासबुक, उस तरह से आपको सारी डिटेल्स मिल जाएंगी। इसी तरह स्टॉक्स का भी डैशबोर्ड है और गोल्ड का भी डैशबोर्ड है जहां आपको स्टॉक्स के इन्वेस्टमेंट्स और गोल्ड के इन्वेस्टमेंट्स दिख जाएंगे। तो जैसा कि मैं कह रहा था, जब आप किसी म्यूचुअल फंड के नाम पे टैप करेंगे तो कुछ इस तरह का स्क्रीन आएगा जहां पे आपको ऊपर दिख रहा होगा इन्वेस्टेड इन्वेस्टेड इन्वेस्टेड, एंड अगर रिडीम किया होता तो वो भी लिखा था, विथड्रॉन या रिडीम लिखा था। इसके नीचे 2 ऑप्शंस दिख रहे हैं आपको, 2 बटन। इन्वेस्ट मोर, अगर किसी भी म्यूचुअल फंड में आप और पैसे लगाना चाहते हैं तो ये ऑप्शन यूज कर सकते हैं, और उस म्यूचुअल फंड से अगर आप पैसा निकालना चाहते हैं तो सेल या रिडीम करके आप उससे निकाल भी सकते हैं। कुछ लोगों को एक मिसकंसेप्शन होता है, विच इज, उनको लगता है कि अगर हम किसी म्यूचुअल फंड में सिप कर रहे हैं तो उसमें और इन्वेस्ट नहीं कर सकते हैं, वन टाइम नहीं कर सकते हैं, या उल्टा अगर वो किसी में वन टाइम किए हैं तो उसमें फिर SIP स्टार्ट नहीं कर सकते हैं। ऐसा बिल्कुल कुछ भी नहीं है। यू कैन इन्वेस्ट एनी टाइम एनी अमाउंट यू वांट इन एनी म्यूचुअल फंड, बी इट SIP और वन टाइम। कुछ कुछ म्यूचुअल फंड्स में थोड़े रिस्ट्रिक्शन होते हैं, दैट इफ देयर इज, वो आपको बताया जाएगा, आपको वहां पे लिखा मिलेगा कि इसमें ऐसा सा रिस्ट्रिक्शन है। मूविंग ऑन, सारे पेमेंट ऑप्शंस हैं ग्रुप पे अवेलेबल, चाहे वो गूगल पे हो, UPI एप्स हो, नेफ्ट, RTGS, IMPS हो, नेट बैंकिंग हो, इट्स ऑल अवेलेबल हियर। Import and switch. So this is another very popular feature on Groww. अगर आपके पास कोई म्यूचुअल फंड इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हैं जो कि आपने ग्रो पे नहीं किए, यू हैड प्रॉब्ली स्टार्टेड समवेयर एल्स, किसी दूसरे प्लेटफॉर्म पे आपने इन्वेस्ट किया या आपने किसी और के थ्रू इन्वेस्ट किया और आप चाहते हैं कि उसको ग्रो पे ले आया जाए, तो आप उसको इंपोर्ट कर सकते हैं। अपने डैशबोर्ड में जाइए और डैशबोर्ड में सबसे नीचे स्क्रॉल कर जाइए, वहां पर आपको इंपोर्ट फंड्स का ऑप्शन दिख जाएगा। It's again 100% paperless. It's very seamless. And the second option, which is again very popular amongst our users, is switch. Switch का क्या मतलब है? अगर आप आपके जो एक्सटर्नल फंड्स हैं, जो ग्रुप पे आपने इन्वेस्ट नहीं किए, अगर आप उसको इंपोर्ट करके ग्रुप पे लाते हैं और वो रेगुलर म्यूचुअल फंड्स है, रेगुलर प्लान जिसमें कमीशन कट रहा है, तो आप उसको स्विच करके डायरेक्ट प्लान में चेंज कर सकते हैं। एंड दिस इज डन वाया इंपोर्ट। सो पहले आप इंपोर्ट करेंगे और फिर आप उसको डायरेक्ट में स्विच कर लेंगे। If you have any doubts, any questions, please write an email to us at support@groww.in. इसके अलावा आपको ग्रो से रिलेटेड कोई भी सवाल हो आपके ट्रांजैक्शंस के बारे में, ऑर्डर्स के बारे में, तो आप हेल्प एंड सपोर्ट सेक्शन का यूज कर सकते हैं। वहाँ पे जो भी आंसर्स दिख रहे हैं, जो भी आपको वैल्यूज दिख रहे हैं, इट्स ऑल डिजाइन्ड फॉर यू। आपको 90% केस में ऐसा होता है कि जो भी वहाँ जाता है उनको अपने प्रॉब्लम का सोल्यूशन मिल जाता है। इन केस दैट डज नॉट हैपन, you can always reach out to us via the help and support section, via call, and you can raise a ticket and chat with us also. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and YouTube. अगर आप नए इन्वेस्टर हैं, आपको YouTube जरूर चेकआउट करना चाहिए। YouTube allows you to, वहाँ पे जगदीप सिंह आते हैं, and it allows you to learn about investing if you're a new investor. So Jagdeep talks about stocks investing mostly, and also about mutual funds, but he covers a very wide gambit. So you will really find it resourceful if you're a new investor. A little bit more about Groww. We are one of the highest rated apps in the investment domain in India. प्रैक्टिकली सारे म्यूचुअल फंड्स हैं हमारे पास, 90 लाख से भी ज्यादा यूजर्स हैं, हम सेबी एम्फी रजिस्टर्ड हैं, एंड हम 256 बिट एन्क्रिप्शन का यूज करते हैं, एंड वी आर आल्सो ए ISO certified company. Thank you. With that, I come to the end of my presentation. I invite Rupesh and Rishabh to join us, and now we'll take your questions.
Thanks, Shikhar. That was very informative, and thanks, Rupesh, for giving those insights. Just to summarize what Mr. Rupesh mentioned, that don't try to time the market. You need to be in the market for longer term to make a lot of money. And if earning growth and economy recovery surprise us, there is still some juice which we can make at this market levels, and sector rotation will continue. So keeping those in mind, we will start taking your question. I can see a lot of questions coming for Mr. Rupesh. The first one, which he already mentioned, but again, I would just, there is a viewer who wants to understand that whether he should buy, hold, or sell his current positions at these market levels. I know it's a tricky one, sir. Yeah.
So, as I said, I think if you are willing to take, okay, let me elaborate what I had said during our conversations. I think if you look at India as a country, then the growth opportunity is huge. The growth opportunity is huge, and one of the biggest driver for this growth opportunity can be our demographic advantage. So we all know India is a young country with more than half of our population is below 25 years of age. So this itself creates a huge room to grow. So what it means is, as these young people join workforce, they start earning, they start consuming, they start, as they grow in their life, in their careers, they start earning more, they start premiumizing, so they start consuming better products, more premium products as against what they were doing earlier. So what it does is that it expands markets for many categories, and that itself creates an opportunity to make money. Secondly, we all know that, I mean, as a country, we have potential, but because of some reasons, that potential has not materialized. So maybe our potential growth rate is much higher than what our current growth rate is. So there we have seen that in last few years, I mean, maybe we have not invested enough in infrastructure. Maybe we need to do some big reforms because a lot of laws or policies which are in place, they are not so suitable for current times, and we need to make amends to those changes. So as those things happen, as investments happen in the economy, infrastructure improves, you will see that economic growth will pick up, and this itself should drive growth for us. And that's why, from the longer term perspective, I think India offers a very attractive growth opportunity, and that's why I believe that as far as equity as an asset class is concerned, I mean, it's an asset class which can actually deliver healthy returns for an investor who is willing to remain invested for medium to longer terms, willing to live through near-term volatilities. So from this, I would draw answer to your question. That is, I would maintain my equity allocations, whatever investments I have in the market. I will not look at taking that money out of the market, thinking that markets are at all-time high, or we have already seen such a run-up. Will markets correct from here? Can markets correct? Yes, they will. They will definitely correct. No market moves in a straight line. But can you time it? The answer is an emphatic no. Hold investments which you have, invest further, yes, but don't put lump sum. I mean, scatter it, spread it over a period of time. Come through your SIPs or STPs, and I think over a medium to longer term, you would be handsomely rewarded.
Thank you so much, sir, for that. Moving from equity to debt, there are a couple of questions people want to know. Is it a good time to invest in debt, and specifically gilt funds? And what's your view on the interest rate? Are we looking that interest rate might reverse from here?
Okay. So I think on interest rates, my sense is that the cycle has bottomed out. As in, I don't expect very significant rate cuts happening from where we are. We have seen inflation going beyond what RBI's mandate is, that is 2 to 6%. But still, RBI has kept rates low because the expectation is that this pickup in inflation is transitory in nature. And as supply chains stabilize and food inflation will also come down. And as a result, inflation should come down. But I don't think that interest rates will go significantly down from here. So the returns which you have made in debt funds because of interest rates going down, as a result, the NAVs have gone up, bond prices go up. So do not extrapolate those returns. From here on, the returns will be more of accrual in nature. That's my view. And so a fund which is probably maybe, I mean, from here on to make money, either the credit calls have to go right, or so duration is not something on which I would make a big bet.
Sure. Thank you so much. Shikhar, there is a question for you. Somebody wants to know how to add a nominee.
So, if you have given the nominee while signing up on Groww, there's no need to add nominee. We automatically put that in every mutual fund that you invest in. But अगर आपने जब आप साइन अप कर रहे थे तब आपने नॉमिनी नहीं ऐड किया है और आपने इन्वेस्ट कर लिया ग्रो पे, then you will have to contact us at support@groww.in. We will be sending you separate forms for each of the companies that you have, each of the mutual funds that you have invested in. You will have to sign that, fill that form, send it to us, and we will update your nominee. This is one of the reasons why we suggest that you put in the nominee right when you're signing up on Groww and not keep it for later, because later on it becomes a bit more. From paperless it becomes paperful. It becomes a lot of paperwork.
Okay, and one investor wants to know how do we contact Groww. So I think you've already mentioned. You can just repeat once.
Sure. Please email us at support@groww.in, and I will give you a number. This is our number. If anybody would like to note it down, maybe Groww in our chat section, we can just write this number down: 91088 00604. So you don't need to necessarily look for this number. अगर आप help and support section में जाके भी type करेंगे call center number, आपको ये number वहाँ मिल जाएगा. So you can reach out to us on this number also.
Sure. Thanks, Shikhar. There is one question which I'll take. Somebody wants to know whether SIP is current time is good for SIP. So I think as Mr. Rupesh also mentioned, and I also discussed about, the whole concept of SIP came because we don't want to time the market. And we want to come out of that timing market game. So if you are a long-term investor, if you are chasing your long-term goals, then certainly any time can be a right time to invest in SIP. So even at current levels, you can stick to your SIP. And as Mr. Rupesh mentioned, that don't try to go out or come out of the market and stay invested. Still, Indian equity has a lot to offer to all of us. Next one, Mr. Rupesh, somebody wants to know about Tata Digital Fund. So would you like to share something on that?
Sure. So Tata Digital Fund, it's basically a sectoral fund which invests into IT companies, IT and IT related businesses. So of late, we have also got the approval to invest outside India. So some portion of the fund may get invested in tech companies which are listed outside India. Otherwise, it's a sectoral fund and its fortunes are tied to what happens to IT sector and other businesses which are related to that.
And an investor wants to know, because banks and FMCG again are showing some performance, do we think that markets might correct from here? Is it a signal? What's your comment on that?
So not really. I think no doubt banks have, and I'm trying to do crystal gazing here, which I just said not possible, but still. Uh, so banks, no doubt, we have seen that banks have done very well in last 1.5 months or so, but still they are underperformers relative to some of the other sectors. But on top of that, today when I look at banks, at least the large banks, then the opportunity still seems attractive to me. I think valuations are still favorable over there. And today, when we look at these large banks, because of COVID, they have actually come out much stronger than what they were. If I have to just share with you some of the things because of which I like these large corporate banks are the NPA cycle, the corporate NPA cycle, which had started in India from 2012-13 onwards, thanks to various steps taken by RBI, the asset quality reviews which were done by RBI, and thanks to insolvency and bankruptcy code, which is one of the biggest reforms which has happened in India in recent times, we saw that large banks, their corporate NPAs, they were well recognized and well provided for. Market was worried that on account of COVID, what will happen to retail NPAs. But if we look at last two quarterly numbers, it has very clearly come out that the asset quality over there has stood up well. These banks are very well capitalized. Their retail franchisee, particularly as represented by access to low cost current account, savings account, it continues to remain healthy. And most of them have raised meaningful amount of capital. So looking at all these positives and current valuations, I don't think financials are still stretched and they can still further go.
Thank you. Shikhar, somebody wants to know if they do not have their Aadhaar linked with their phone, is it possible to open a demat with Groww?
So if your Aadhaar is not linked, so there is a procedure for this. It is a bit slightly longer than this. You will find the details in the help and support section. But again, I could be slightly unaware of this, but as far as I'm aware, it's possible.
Okay, and how to start SIP and add biller through net banking thing?
Okay, this is a relatively long procedure.
Sure.
What
So
I'll do is
answer them on the comment box. So you can
yeah.
ask.
So I will share a link to a blog. That blog has this detail mentioned. We can probably put it up in the comment section.
Sure. Mr. Rupesh, again coming back to you. Currently, a couple of questions on the sector again. Currently, which all sectors do you think are looking promising? And on health sector, is there some juice still left there?
Okay, I'll be happy to talk about sectors, but remember what I had said, sectoral funds are riskier bets. You have to time your entry and exit both, and then only it can work for you. So in terms of sectors, I think as I mentioned, banking is one sector which I still believe that despite the recent run-up which we have seen, there is opportunity to make money. India is an under-penetrated market. In terms of not only banking but financial services, and I would not restrict myself to only banking. I would say that all financial services products, they have a long way to go in terms of growth. I mean, as we move ahead, digitization, increasing awareness towards insurance. So I mean, whether it is life insurance, general insurance, asset management companies, banks, I think opportunity for growth continues to remain there. So that is one sector which I would, so banking and financial services, which I would say I have a positive view and I'll continue to maintain that. Pharma sector is a bit complex because every company has a very different business model when it comes to pharma. So on one hand, you have companies which are pure play on Indian domestic businesses. So if you look at domestic pharma company, then these are the companies which sell their drugs in India. Most of them are branded generic companies because India is a branded generics market. So real growth which you get is by increasing your volumes and some price increase which you get according to a formula in most of the products. Most of the multinational companies which are operating in India, whether you look at Pfizer, Glaxo, they are all domestic focused pharma companies. So it has a very different kind of drivers. You can have companies which are more focused on US FDA, US markets, US generic markets. So your fortunes are linked to what kind of product filings you have done, whether you get timely approvals from US FDA when you launch your product, what kind of market share gains you have. And the third category is the emerging market play. So if you look at generic companies in India, they would have combination of US, India, and emerging markets. So this is one category. Second category is companies they can be a play on contract research and manufacturing services. So companies like DB's Labs an example, Loss Labs an example, where these companies do manufacturing work for other innovator pharma companies, or it can be for other generic companies also. So so they don't necessarily invest on the front end, but they do the back end work of manufacturing the drugs for others. And then, apart from this, you can have API players. So very different types of business models are available. And so I think giving a very top-down view on sector is difficult. On bottom-up basis, yes, there are opportunities across the spectrum. So opportunities in US marketplace, opportunities in domestic market, opportunities in CRAMS. Healthcare and diagnostic as a space has come up pretty well in this current COVID-related environment. I think opportunity exists, but valuations, I think in diagnostic space, I feel are a bit stretched. So growth has to really materialize to justify or to make money from these valuations over there.
Sure. Shikhar, somebody wants to know how to invest in gold through Groww app.
I just hope you have updated the app because it's right there on the screen. आप अगर आपने फोन अपने ऐप को अपडेट नहीं किया तो अपडेट कर लीजिए, and अपडेट करने के ठीक बाद आपको I don't know if it's visible, yes, वहाँ पे gold option दिख रहा है, so you can tap on that and ये रहा यहाँ पे, तो यहाँ पे आपको दिखेगा augment digital gold करके एक option है, वहाँ पे click कीजिए and it's very similar to investing in mutual funds or stocks on Groww. Process एकदम similar है.
So that is quite simple. Another gentleman wants to know, can we pause the SIP and later can we resume our SIP on the app?
So we get this a lot, and we're actually I think Rishabh has seen this questions too many times. इसका simple solution यही है कि आपकी जो running SIP है उसको cancel कर दीजिए. जब आप दोबारा से start करना चाहते हैं, दोबारा से उसी mutual fund में उतना ही amount का नया SIP start कर लीजिए.
Sure. Mr. Rupesh, what is your take on foreign funds? Because a lot of investors are now looking to invest in abroad. So what is your view on that?
So foreign funds, so there are two reasons because of which one can consider investing in foreign funds or funds which invest in foreign securities. First reason is it gives you diversification. बिकॉज जब आप इंडिया में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो आपका जो रिटर्न एक्सपेक्टेशन है या जो पोटेंशियल रिटर्न आ सकता है वो इंडियन कंपनीज, इंडियन इकोनॉमी उसके साथ रिलेटेड हो जाता है एंटायरली. बट अगर आप फॉरेन फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो आपको एक डाइवर्सिफिकेशन मिलता है कि नॉट ओनली इंडिया बट आपने जो इंडिया के बाहर यूएस में, जापान में या चाइना फोकस्ड फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट किया है तो आपको एक जियोग्राफिकल डाइवर्सिफिकेशन मिल जाता है कि इन केस एक मार्केट में अगर कुछ डिसरप्शन होता है तो आपके दूसरे मार्केट में रिटर्न्स जो हैं वो आपके ओवरऑल पोर्टफोलियो को प्रोटेक्ट करके रख सकते हैं. सेकेंड रीजन जिसकी वजह से फॉरेन फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए वो ये कि कई बार इंडिया में काफ़ी सारे बिजनेस मॉडल्स अवेलेबल नहीं हैं. जैसे अगर हम इंडिया और यूएस का कंपैरिजन करें और फॉर दैट मैटर इवन इन चाइना, सम ऑफ द बिजनेस मॉडल्स ऑन टेक्नोलॉजी प्लेटफॉर्म, आई मीन सो businesses like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Netflix, those options are not available in India, whereas these companies have a global play. So अगर आप ऐसे businesses में, ऐसे companies में participate करना चाहते हैं तो then foreign funds can be a vehicle of choice over there. मैं खाली एक ही बात हाईलाइट करना चाहूँगा कि जब आप फॉरेन फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो आपके रिटर्न्स में दो लेयर होता है. एक लेयर होता है कि आपने जिन फंड में इन्वेस्ट किया उनका क्या रिटर्न आएगा, उन सो उन फंड्स ने जिन स्टॉक्स में रिटर्न जो इन्वेस्ट किया है उससे क्या रिटर्न आएगा, बट आपके जो रिटर्न्स है उसमें एक्सचेंज रेट, सो करेंसी विल ऑल्सो मैटर. सो अगर आप यूएस फंड में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं तो रुपी डॉलर का जो इम्पैक्ट है वो भी आपके रिटर्न्स पे आएगा. सो अगर आप डॉलर फंड में इन्वेस्ट करते हैं एंड रुपी डेप्रिशिएट करता है तो आपके रुपी रिटर्न्स आपको ऑन द हायर साइड दिखेंगे एंड वाइस वर्सा आल्सो.
Shikhar, somebody wants to know if they can invest in fixed deposits through Groww.
Yes, you can. अभी ऐप पे अवेलेबल नहीं है, लेकिन आप वेबसाइट grow.in पे जाके एफडी में इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं. The benefit of investing on Groww in FDs is that आपको बहुत सारे options मिलते हैं. अभी हम बहुत सारे नए नए options add कर रहे हैं, but I think right now if you go you can see Bajaj का FD है, IDFC First Bank का FD है, and there is I think there's one more Equities option. So तीन options, तीन अलग अलग जगह के options हैं और हम और भी add करते रहेंगे. So grow.in पे जाके आप कर सकते हैं. ऐप में it will come soon, not immediately but it's coming soon.
Mr. Rupesh, there is a specific question with insurance sector. You mentioned that financial look promising. Any specific thing investors should keep in mind about insurance sector? And another one related to it, somebody is asking, can we do SIP in sectoral funds? Will that work, or what is your take on that?
So I'll take the second one. That's an easier one. So as I said, sectoral funds are by nature riskier funds. You have to get your timing, entry timing as well as exit timing right. Then only it works. Because when the sector goes through a down cycle, I mean, your returns can hurt very badly. It can go down very significantly. So timing is the most important part over there. And since it's difficult to time things, I would say keep your risk profile in mind when putting money in sectoral funds. If you want to allocate certain percentage of your investments, you can do that. There is no harm, but always be mindful of this risk. Now, whether you want to take this exposure through SIP lump sum, it's completely your call. If you like a sector, you think the sector can do well over next 1 year, you can put lump sum and can top it up with your SIPs. That's completely your call. So nothing to suggest me over there. On first question on insurance. So insurance, very clearly, we can divide it into general insurance and life insurance. I think both the businesses have very different drivers. General insurance has more linkages to economic growth as well. Because in general, if economic growth is there, more investments are happening, then you have more requirements of insurance for plant and machinery coming into play. So fire insurance policies, they come into demand. And so that is one thing which is a right. So there is a very clearly a direct linkage over there. Secondly, awareness. So as awareness levels improve, thanks to digital platforms like Groww, we have seen that in last few years only the awareness towards insurance has gone up. So people believe in medical insurance. COVID type of incident has further improved awareness around medical importance of having a medical policy. So those are the longer term drivers for general insurance. On the life side also, I think India is a young country. And because of improving awareness, the people have started understanding importance of having a life insurance policy, and that means that the runway for growth for both these businesses are very, very long. The way to evaluate these businesses, I think that would require a class in itself, because it's there are so many things which you have to look at. So you have to look at, if I have to give you a very general idea, in case of life insurance companies, we look at the embedded value and look at evaluating these businesses and price to embedded value, which is again a function of embedded value is a function of value of new business and the existing business which you have already underwritten. So I think it's a bit complex subject. It's not a very straightforward thing to understand. So I think it requires a very detailed discussion.
Sure. I think Thank you so much. We are almost done with all the questions. So once again, I would like to thank Mr. Rupesh Patel for coming in and sharing valuable insight. I'm sure our investors have picked up some important notes, which will be really helpful for them in their investment journey. Thanks, Shikhar, for joining in and giving your perspective on the Groww.
Thank you.
So till next week, we would like to say a goodbye to all our viewers, and we will be back again at the same time next week with another interesting topic and another speaker from the industry. So till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.